And I got to point out that, there are a couple guys named Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld who had very long Washington resumes and led us into one of the worst foreign policy disasters in our history. So a lot of years in Washington doesn't guarantee good judgment. It doesn't guarantee good character. But I tell people about the experience that I think we need in America right now. It's the experience of bringing people together to get things done, like I did in the state legislature, reforming a death penalty system that was broken. It means overcoming the resistance of the special interests and the money in politics to get things done, like I did last year working with Russ Feingold to pass major ethics reform legislation. It's the kind of experience to stand up and tell the truth even when the truth is inconvenient. Like when I stood up against this war at a time when it was unpopular to stand up against this war. So, I'm just going by what you told me. So I am proud to be here with these outstanding public servants. But I am hopeful that all of you recognize that change is not just going to happen from the top down. Change is going to need to happen from the bottom up. Change is going to happen because of you. I am sick and tired of the wealthiest country on earth not having enough gumption to provide health insurance for 47 million uninsured, and I promise you as president, we will pass health insurance for 47 million Americans who don't have it, and reduce premiums for those who currently have health insurance. I am tired of us not having a world-class education system for every single child in America, and that is why we have to make sure that we provide early childhood education for every child. We are going to bring an end to this war, and I will fight now in the United States Senate to make sure that we don't pass any funding bill that does not have a deadline to start bringing our troops out and a deadline to start bringing our troops home. But ultimately, we are not going to be able to do that without you. So let me just close by saying this. I told some folks a story the other day of being in Greenwood, South Carolina. I had gotten there because of a promise I had made. I'd been at Columbia, South Carolina, talking to a state legislator whose endorsement I'd wanted. And I said, I want your endorsement. She said, I'll only endorse you if you come to Greenwood, South Carolina. And I must have had a glass of wine or something, because I said, okay, sign me up. And a month later, I show up in South Carolina. I get into the hotel late. It's 12 o'clock. I get to the hotel room about 1 o'clock, and my staff says, you got to wake up at 6 to go to Greenwood. Turns out it's an hour and a half from every place else. And I wake up in the morning. I'm exhausted. Been campaigning for a week. And I wake up. My back is sore. I open up the curtain, and it's pouring down rain outside. And I open up the newspaper, and there's a bad story about me in the New York Times. And I go downstairs, the umbrella blows open, and I get soaked as I get in the car. And we're driving, and we're driving, and we're driving, an hour and a half. Finally, we get to Greenwood. You can't tell right away when you're there, because there are just a lot of fields, not a lot of big buildings. And we pull into this small building. I walk in, there are 20 people there. And they all look a little damp, and they don't look that thrilled to see me either. But I'm shaking hands and saying hello, doing what I'm supposed to do. And suddenly we hear in the background somebody say, fired up! And we look back. We don't know what's going on. Everybody else in the room says, fired up. And then we hear this voice saying, ready to go! And everybody says, just like that, ready to go. And we look back, and there's this tiny woman. She's about 5'3", big hat, outfit on, and she's smiling at me, about 60 years old. And she's just grinning, and she says, fired up. And she says, ready to go. And it turns out that she's a member of the city council. They're famous for her chants. And for the next 5 minutes, they just keep on chanting, fired up, ready to go. And my staff and I, we don't know what to do. But after a minute or so, here's the thing, Iowa, I start feeling kind of fired up. And I start feeling ready to go. And that's the power of your voice. That's the power of one voice to change the mood of a room. That's the power of a voice to change a city and a state and a country. So I want to know, are you fired up? Are you ready to go? Are you fired up? Are you ready to go? Are you fired up? Are you ready to go? Let's go change the world. Thank you very much, everybody.
I have to tell you that I had asked each of the candidates to go for 10 minutes and to cut off at 15, and by gosh, he made it on 15 minutes, right on the button. I first